Good afternoon, class. You are welcome to this semester's course, and the course title is Fabric Decoration 2. I hope you enjoyed the one for the first semester, and the course code is IAT 429. Then we look at the course description, which is critical before we can start any activity. This course will help students to develop skill to improve the aesthetics and physical characteristics of fabric. Focus will be placed on acquisition of skills in printing, embroidery, applique, fabric weaving, and other fabric decoration techniques. So upon completion of this course, students should be able to use various printing techniques in decorating fabrics, efficiently use fabric embroidery techniques to decorate fabric surfaces, demonstrate skill in adopting different fabric decoration approaches in surface design, and produce artifacts from the design fabrics. It is critical because at the end of the day, whatever you do, you need to convert them into artifacts. So for this semester, as I told you, we'll be working on these subtopics: hand block printing, stencil printing, screen printing, and these all falls part under hand printing technique. And as I said, for fabric decoration, what you need is you do a lot of experimentation. If you are scared of playing with fabrics, then you cannot be a good fabric decorator, because basically it's about experimenting and coming up with new things on the market. So let's look at block printing. It's a big word. When you hear block printing, what comes into mind? It is basically the use of blocks which are craftily designed to transfer prints from a block onto a substrate. It can be a fabric, it can be leather, it can be whatever material that you can talk of. So when you talk about block printing, we have different approaches and techniques. We have the single color print, we have the double color, that's the overlap for the third color. You can create tones, you can have the reverse, you can add spot color, you can also print on already made items. So when we talk about a single block, which is basically the use of a block, just a single block, you have your designs on it, then you can transfer whatever design that you have onto your substrate. So let's go back and still look at the double color, which is actually using one block and printing over that block to give you what we call a third color. Then we also have the reverse, which is also either using the same block but then in a reverse form, or what we call the reverse printing. Then we have adding spot color, which is also critical. You can already have an already printed fabric. Then you can critically look at areas within the fabric and create some interesting designs within the fabric. So here we have on our screen the single block. So if you look at it critically, you realize that it is just one single design that has been carved out through whichever technique that you want to use. Then that single block is being pressed onto the substrate, which I earlier stated, whether it's a fabric or a leather. Then just one design after the next. The next, you can decide to alternate the color, which is also quite interesting when it comes to fabric decoration. But basically, you have just one design on it, on your block. Then you keep alternating. Depending on your creative ability, you can manipulate whichever design that you want to do on your fabric. Then we also have what we call the positives and the reverse or the negative. So with this one, you can have one single block and create the reverse of the design. So if you look at the red image, you realize that you have a single block, but one is in the positive. That is, you make sure that the design area stands as a relief, which will pick up the dye and you transfer. Then you have the reverse, where now the positive area will rather be inside. You see, it's a reverse form. So instead of it being on a relief, it's rather incised or engraved into it. So the negative areas that are really printed. That is why we call it the reverse print. Then let's look at the double color or the overlap, which is also another interesting concept that you can also produce. You can use one single stamp, but then achieve double print or double color. So you use your first block, which is a single block, then you create your impressions on your substrate or your fabric or your leather, whichever way you want to, material you want to use. Then now you can change the color using still the same block, You now use a different color, then you shift your block a little, then you still print on the already printed first color. You can decide to shift it a little so that you create what we call an overlap. So when you create an overlap based on your creative ability and your understanding of color psychology and the interplay of colors, you can decide to use two colors that will produce an overlap of a third color, which is also very interesting. So in this case, you save a lot more money because instead of creating 3 different blocks to print, now you just use your 2 blocks in creating your 3 colors. Then we also have you add in the spot color, which is also another interesting technique. So you look at an already prepared design, then you look at spots within the design that you can print or enhance. So that is also there on our screen. So you realize that the already printed fabric was down. Then you have your sky blue, which is used as a spot color, and it's in. Very interesting. So for fabric decoration, your creative ability is your best bet. So basically, let's now look at the basic block and how you can make it. So the basic tools that you can use, you can have your soft rubber or your soft wood, which is basically something that you can access within the community. You can have your cutter or your knife or your blade. Then you can have your carving tool. So what you do is that you just draw your design on your block. Let me just use a block as our basic material. Then you create your design on the block. Then use your knife to just carve out so that your design area will stand as a relief on your block so that you can easily transfer your design onto it. Then we look at the printing techniques. You can have a simple repeat print. If you have studied basic design in your early stages, that's your first year and your second year, you realize that when you talk about the repeat prints, they are common repeat prints that you can actually adopt. Then we also have what we call the complex repeat or a composite block. So for a composite block, you can decide to add 2 or 3 of your basic blocks together. So instead of having a single block that you can print to have a single print, now you can put 2 or more different blocks together to make a bigger block so that you can just, at a one print or a one shot, you can have 4 designs within that same design, which is also very interesting. You look at the Nigerians, the Adire and the Adire Eluko, they adopt that technique in working on them. So that is that for our block printing technique. We'll go to the studio and demonstrate because I told you most of these things are experimental. So we need to go to the studio and we can work on it.